Aaron Cook,
Here.
Mel Davis, here. Randy Abner,
Here.
Yeah.
Paul Seymour Jr.,
Here.
Dale Weldon,
Here.
Olin Clausen,
Present.
and Kelly Milan is absent. Any announcements?
I've got a couple, but I think I'll just cover them under the committee reports, Mel.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes of the previous meeting? If so, I'll accept a motion to accept the minutes.
So move.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Committee reports?
Thank you, Your Honor. So we've had a number of things going on. We've had, right now, the fire department is going through their routine fire hydrant flushing. They go to every single hydrant in the community. They verify the fire flow and the pressure that's there, which is pretty important, right? We want to know if there's ever a fire in town that we have the type of water and the accessibility, the access to water and the pressure and so forth to be able to fight fires. It directly relates to the insurance rates that our homeowners get, and it's an integral part of the fire department. I know we've had a couple issues with when we do this. Obviously, we run quite a bit of water, and so we've had a couple issues where we've washed out some areas that we've been to previously and sodded and put grass seed down and straw and so forth. My guys are aware of that. They'll be back to those areas. We've talked to the homeowners. They'll be back to those areas to address all of those issues this coming week. So this week they're in the process of doing flushing, and next week we'll kind of come back and remediate those areas that may have gotten disturbed by the flushing. Also, the
Can I make a suggestion?
sure.
If they were to take and about all the cases and take a 4x8 sheet of plywood and hook, somehow or another, hook a rope or a chain and bring that back around something and blow that water down on that would keep us from having to go back and do all that work. I mean, it seems to me like it'd be a smarter way to do it.
I don't disagree with that. Annie Lyons and I have had several conversations about the flushing. In some instances, it isn't the immediate outflow at the hydrant. It's the water hitting the street, going down the street, overflowing the curb, hitting some of the basins, filling the basins full of debris, that kind of a thing. And so there's some things I think we can improve on, certainly, and some things that are just going to be maintenance issues we have to come back and take care of.
So with your setbacks,
Yeah.
your hydrant setback from your hydrant to the curb.
Yep.
And I think that's what you're talking about. From the hydrant to the curb, you put a piece of plywood in there, it would blow it across
Yeah,
the plywood instead of.
Yeah. I know we talked about having a section of hose, but as you're probably aware, hose can get a little crazy. Especially when you have that kind of water flowing through it, it actually can become something that's dangerous.
Kill somebody.
Yeah, and so we've avoided that for those reasons, but the plywood suggestion is a good suggestion. Water treatment plant, HVAC, obviously we're coming into the cooler portions of the year. We got approval in a previous meeting to go ahead and do the work on that. We've got Garing coming in to do that work. As I mentioned, we're coming into the cooler season, so right now the objective is to get the unit installed so that we can take care of the dehumidifying properties of the air conditioning for those areas coming into the spring, and when those pipes start sweating and causing rust and corrosion, that kind of thing. So we're on top of that. SDR's SD management of the plants is transitioned to EnviroLink of North Carolina. In August, the South Dearborn Regional Sewer District Board voted to basically terminate Bill Nier's employment. The board has entered into a 2-year management agreement with this private firm. that's really about all I can tell you about that. Paul and I have been pretty involved in that process. If Paul has some comments to make about that, he can. One thing I will say is that despite maybe my opposition and Paul's opposition to the way things went, I can say honestly that we're hopeful and we'll do everything we can to help this new management company be successful in the management of the plant. It's in the best interest of the community that they're successful, and I hope that they're successful. Paul, do you have anything?
I wouldn't have said it any different.
Lift station number 12. 2 weeks ago, pump number 1 sucked up a large piece of concrete and other debris and snapped the motor shaft. No, new business is the MGP fire pump. Oh, no, you're right. You're correct. I'm sorry. So we want a spare pump. We've got a spare pump. This really speaks to lift station number 12. It's just an announcement. The spare pump, the cost is about $14,000 to redo the pump that was broke. So when we take up the motion under new business for lift station 12, I want us to be thinking about the additional cost to refurbish that pump that's there that had the damage, and so that we can think about having that as a useful item. When it comes to sewer, you guys can remember back to meetings in the past where we've had issues with sewer, getting to people's basements, those kinds of things. And so it's pretty important that we have a backup that's readily available to us. It's a cheap form of insurance for us to have those. So just keep that in mind.
Where's this located? Is this on 50?
This is on 50, yes.
Okay.
48 and 50.
Okay.
Let's see, the other was the...
Anything else, Mr. Clausen?
No, I think that's it under announcements, Mel.
Okay. New business, Olin Clausen, support for Light Up Navajo.
Okay, so we sent 2 trucks and 2 men out to Light Up Navajo. We've presented on this a number of times here in this chamber, and we're proposing to send another group of guys and trucks out to Navajo again for the second round of Light Up Navajo. This is an American Public Power initiative. It's a mutual aid initiative. It has been one of the most meaningful things that we as a utility have been a part of. I think I've spoken to you guys about the fact that we've our crews, our guys have taken power to homes that didn't have electricity for as many as 70 years. People actively living there every day of every year in those 70 years, but never had electricity. And so LMU folks went to those locations and helped take power to those locations. The cost that came out of our pocket was the wages for those 2 individuals for a period of approximately 7 days, and our truck time. And so it's a relatively small contribution to make to a program that has been embraced nationally. There was 23 utilities that took part in that program. Only 2 utilities from Indiana, us and the city of Scottsburg. I'm very proud of that. I think that's a huge thing for Lawrenceburg to be able to say that they have participated in something that only one other community in the state participated in, and one of only 23 utilities in the United States participated in. And some of the utilities came from as far away as Massachusetts. And so, like I said, it's a humanitarian effort. We send guys to Florida at times. We send people to all around the tri-state area and all around the eastern United States to restore power when storms hit. And we don't do very much in terms of helping solve the problem of 15,000 homes in the continental United States that have never had electricity. So it's something that I think, and I've said, transcends politics. I'm extremely proud of this board, this administration, for being supportive of this. It shows what I consider to be the true spirit of this little river town, that we think about others, not just ourselves. And so I applaud you for that, and I ask for approval to be able to participate again this year. We've got a few communities, Ameren, Illinois, that sent 7 teams to our Lyman Rodeo. When they got to meet the Navajo guys that were here for the Lyman Rodeo, and they got to hear the story about our guys hooking power up there, they were all in, and they want to participate with our crews, with the LMU crews. They want to be stationed with our guys, work with our guys, and participate with our guys. And one thing that just developed today is there's a there's a company called Titan Productions. Titan Productions has produced a number of films. They produced a film called Storm Soldiers. Mel, you probably remember that. And they've approached Ameren, and they want to document. They want to film this documentary that revolves around Light Up Navajo and the Lawrenceburg Municipal Utility Crews and Ameren, Illinois. They've had some interaction with them. They're familiar with that utility, but they want to document what this community has helped to do to take power to the Navajo reservation. So I'm asking tonight for approval to participate for a period of 1 week on the Navajo reservation in Arizona.
Question, Olin. How many people, do they have a guesstimate on how many people will receive service from this effort?
So they had 15,000 homes that were without electricity before the Light Up Navajo program. And at the end of the year, after the program was over, the crews that went out to Navajo hooked up 237 homes. So that's probably 700 some people.
Right.
But 237 homes were given electrical services for the first time ever.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to support this effort for Light Up Navajo?
So all it's costing us just 2 trucks and 2 men for a week?
2 trucks and 2 men, but after our 2 men came back, the other men were a little jealous that they didn't participate. So it would be a max of 4 of our employees, 3 journeymen, and I hope an apprentice, and 2 trucks for a period of 7 days.
Can we spare that many men right now?
We have the option. So the season for Light Up Navajo is approximately 21 weeks. And so we have the option of selecting when we send the guys. So we can look at past data to tell us when we have stormy seasons here, weather, that kind of issue here. And I think that we could probably, I think we could probably muster it for 7 days, Paul.
I mean, I'd like you to, consider fiber optics. I know we don't have a lot of guys, and as long as you're thinking on that perspective that you have a time frame that you would be able to use at your discretion when you can spare them, I would make a motion that we do this.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second his motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
I appreciate that. And also, I will let everybody know that as a participant in the mutual aid program, and Mel, you can elaborate on this, when we sign that document with American Public Power to say that we will agree to assist and contribute time and effort, energy, trucks, and personnel to mutual aid, it's reciprocal. So if we were to have a storm incident here, what Lawrenceburg could expect is that other utilities from other parts of the country would come here to help us restore our power. When the tornadoes hit in Pendleton a few months ago, we sent a couple trucks and linemen up there to help restore power there. And it was a huge benefit to that community. And so it's reciprocal. So participating in this it's not a one-sided deal. It means that if we ever encounter a problem here, we can expect the same considerations and the same assistance from those communities.
Olin, having participated in a number of those mutual aid situations, I can tell you this, that if something happens here, and hopefully it never will, but you can never say never, you can expect a flood of people coming in, and their main goal is to get the power back on, period. One of these situations I participated in, the city lost its power to the water plant. They had no backup generation at their water plant or any of the pumping stations. They lost their power to the police station, and they had no backup generation there. And probably 3/4 of the town was dark when I got there. There was a massive response of people that had signed up for mutual aid, and the power was restored to the water plant in 1 day, the police station in a day and a half, and then we started going through the neighborhoods, and we worked 2 shifts, 2 12-hour shifts. I worked 1 shift, 24 hours, every day. And in 3 days, we had to power back to everybody. So it was a real experience, and hopefully it never happens here, but you can never say never. So.
Thanks, Bill.
Olin Clausen, Transportation for Communications Manager.
Okay, so the first part of this is a few months ago, we approved participating with IMPA, to select some locations in downtown Lawrenceburg for some level 3 chargers for electrical vehicles. The drive behind that is when you own an electrical vehicle, these locations are populated on all kinds of different apps that the people use to come and find a place to charge. I don't know that there's a single location in Dearborn County. We're right off the 275, and so it has a huge potential to draw people off the interstate to come downtown to be able to fuel their electric vehicles. Electric vehicles and the usage of electric vehicles is on the rise. I mean, just and the numbers are increasing every day. And so, as part of that, we obviously need to select a couple locations. One key part of having a electrical charging facility is it sends a signal to people who come in your community. So people drive in your community and they see that, it tends to improve their opinion about your community, that you're forward thinking, you're cognizant of the environment, these kinds of things. And so there needs to be some aspect of that thought about. So a good location for one of those charging stations would be here at City Hall, a place that people can pull in and park. Takes about 45 minutes to an hour to charge their vehicle. They can walk around the downtown area, do some shopping, things like this. It'd be a good thing to pull people in. I think we'd all be surprised at the number of people that would use the location. And then the others would be maybe inside the parking garage. So people who come here to the hotel, that maybe stay at the hotel for a period of time, there would be a charging location that would be at the inside the parking garage. So those would be a couple of the things that we need to keep in mind. Obviously, the actual locations of those, we would get approval from council before we did the install, but that's the thought behind it. The vehicle that we're proposing is a vehicle that has been supported by not supported, it's in partnership with American Public Power. So the Nissan Leaf is a vehicle that, and this rebate's been extremely popular. They just renewed it until after the first of the year. It gives additional rebates because of the relationship with American Public Power of additional $3,500. This is the only major manufacturer of an electronic vehicle that has participated in this type of a program, and it is specific to American Public Power, which is a huge part of what we do. So the proposal that I'm making tonight is that we approve an amount not to exceed $45,000, and that would include the wrap of the vehicle, to talk about the city of Lawrenceburg, LMU, that it's an electric vehicle, all of those kinds of things. So it'd be a kind of a moving billboard of sorts. But the proposal is that we purchase this vehicle for an amount not to exceed $45,000. And that we go ahead and finalize the location of at least 2 of the 3 prior approved electrical charging stations for the downtown area.
So then you want to be this will be a public relations type slash.
Yeah, I think it's, a public.
We're an electric vehicle friendly community here.
Absolutely, I think it is showing that we're a progressive city. You know, we consider ourselves to be a smart city. We've got fiber deployment. We've got a lot of customers that hooked up to it that love the fact that they're on our fiber. We've got businesses in town that are hooked up to our fiber optics that love the fact they're hooked to our fiber. And I think this sends a positive message to the community that we're also cognizant of the world around us and the environment, and that we're thinking about those kinds of things.
Are there any more questions?
No, that answered my question about the logo on it. And then I think we talked prior about 2 spots in the garage. We never approved it, but
That's correct.
yeah, I think we could start there. You know, with the
So I think what we would do is by next utility service board meeting, I could have IMPA here to talk about the installation process, and we could have a number of locations for the board to select for the actual installation of those.
Okay, can we get the
fields.
cost on that too, the installation?
Yes.
Okay.
I need a motion to move forward with this recommendation from Mr. Clausen.
So move.
Moved, second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Four speed on 50 refund account issue.
Okay, so I'm going to let Crystal kind of talk about this because she's worked most closely with the customer, but I'll give you just kind of an overview. The gentleman who bought the property behind, is it Kelly gas station? What was the old building?
Gas barn, it used to be.
Gas barn?
Used to be the
Yeah.
old gas
I
barn.
keep saying gas barn, I think it is Kelly's, I think it changed name.
Yeah.
again, I don't know.
So you've all probably noticed the construction that's taking place down there, that there's quite a bit of investment that's coming into town. We had an issue with a water meter there that it was hard for us to determine exactly when the leak occurred, how the leak occurred, and whose responsibility it was on that issue. I believe the amount is around $1,500. We met with the customer, and he was very good about it. He didn't feel that he needed to pay 100% of the costs, and we weren't sure that he needed to pay 100% of the costs. And so we agreed tentatively, based on approval from this board, for at least half of the amount that's owed.
Agreed on him paying half and us covering the other half because of the issue.
How many gallons went through?
Mel, I don't have those exact numbers. I think the amount was around $1,500 in total.
Okay.
And so that would put him at about $750 that he would pay and about $750 that we would write off. The reason I'm bringing it to the board is it's not within my authority to grant that. The board would have to approve that.
Okay. Any more questions?
I don't have anything further to add to that either. That's pretty much
Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion to accept it. It's better than another lawsuit.
I'll second Tony's motion.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. MGPI fire protection.
MGPI fire protection issue. So MGPI has approached LMU about providing fire flow protection to their plant. They're currently providing that through their raw water wells and storage. I think that is probably a problem for them. They certainly don't have the amount of storage that we have on hand, and generating that water for a sustained amount of time with those wells, I think is problematic for them. So they've approached us to do that. The LMU connection would be slated for the second phase or later of the project. But what I think we can expect to see, I think, based on my conversations with Andy and MGPI, is that they're going to come forward in another meeting and suggest that maybe we participate in that project with them to some degree so that they can get this done in a single phase instead of 2 phases. I do know it's an important project for them. Fire protection is something that is absolutely imperative, especially to these big industrial type customers.
Especially when you're working with alcohol.
And so, I can't say for sure if they're gonna come forward and ask for that, but I have a feeling that they will. I think what we're asking for tonight is a motion, that we enter into that we, basically, let me read my notes here, the board and the department firm, is that we basically enter into a 2-year agreement on whatever deal moves forward. If it's a 2-stage program, they need to be prepared to participate with us for a period of 2 years, which would help us recover some of those costs, because the fire protection rates will help us recover revenues that we expend to connect them or to facilitate this service. So I think that any agreement that we have with them, regardless of it being a 1-step or a 2-step process, that process is incumbent upon a 2-year agreement with them for the recovery of the investment.
Would this include their sprinkler systems?
I think that it would include their sprinkler systems, Mel.
Yeah.
I know that they have a connection with Greendale for a portion of the facility, but I don't know that this area of the plant, that it is reasonable to assume they can provide that through Greendale or through their raw water and tanks themselves.
I know safety is the biggest thing here, but is this a burden on our utility, or is this something that's gonna boost our utility?
I don't think it's a burden on our utility, so long as we get the language in there that requires them to be a customer. I mean, I don't want to do this and then have them 2 months into it say, well, we're just going to go off our raw water and tank, and we no longer want to pay the public fire protection
I
rate.
mean, are they at the point in this plant where they got a lot of maintenance to do, and they looking at the cost and?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that, look, I think MGPI in the past has talked to us as well. MGPI, I believe, provides some of their, or not MGPI, Proxima provides some of their own fire flow, correct? Or they've thought about it.
I think that's what it said.
And yeah, so they've considered it, and they've considered it. It's this economics issue. Is it more economical for us to provide our own flows? And if they do that, they have to be able to show they can provide them for a set period of time at set pressures, and that they have so much water on hand in terms of storage. And so for a private company to do that, it's a pretty large investment. And I know they already have that there, but to maintain that investment's got to come at a high cost.
Well, that's my whole point. Are they at the point now to where that high cost is just sneaking up behind them and they have to do it? And my whole concern here is you're talking about a 2-year agreement. 2 years seems like a short amount of time on that agreement to me. Because I'm thinking that might be a major job.
I think some of the things they had,
But
Paul,
that's-
back in the day, when the 2 plants were tied together, it ran better that way. Now you're separated these two, they have to have.
But now,
Well, what we're talking about is a physical connection to our line out in the street.
Mhm.
And that's got some expense to it, but it's not a huge expense.
So you're
and-
not gonna take and have to do all the work inside
No.
the plant?
No,
Okay,
we're
that's
talking
right.
about just giving them a physical connection like we would anybody that has public fire protection. And it sits there. The one thing that we've had to look at is capacity. Do we have additional capacity
I was gonna ask you
to
that.
provide the fire flows without hampering or limiting other facilities that are already customers of ours in that regard, if they were to have a fire? And Andy's done a very good job of going through that and determining that we have the capacity, we have the ability to provide the water. And so it's just a matter of having an agreement that's in place long enough, and we can look at the numbers again, that allows us to recapture the cost of the infrastructure.
But I think when Melvin was utility director, I think we do have a pretty hot water, our system in town here. You got everything tied together quite a bit.
And they're gonna make sure that there's no potential cross connection with their existing
Yeah, I think backflow prevention and those kinds of things. And so if we wanted to not have an actual motion on this tonight, I think or instead of just saying yes, let's do it, I think that I would be happy with a motion to pursue all of this and come back with a final report on exact costs, engineer estimates, those kinds of things.
And all the protections
All the,
that
yeah,
you
exactly.
might need. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that would probably be a more appropriate path forward.
Okay, all right.
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and proceed forward with that, and let the utility director look into that and bring that back to the board.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Lift station 12, spare pump and portable pump.
Okay, so this is the one I was talking about where Crystal reined me in. A couple weeks ago, we had the pump down there at the bottom, 48 and 50, sucked up a large piece of debris. It sheared the shaft that goes into the motor. The pump itself isn't repairable, but the motor is, and so there's a cost of $14,000 and about a lead time of 5 weeks to be able to replace that particular item. If you go down 50, you'll notice we have our portable pump sitting there now. It's been in place now for quite a while, and so that's providing the bypass for that damaged pump.
We got any calls from the businesses that's been closed down there due to that?
No, actually, I don't know that we've had businesses that have been officially closed because of our issues. The guys were very responsive to when it occurred. We had the portable pump in place, and again, this board approved to buy that portable pump probably in 2016 when they had that big issue up on the hill, and we had that big influx of groundwater, and we had the storm water, and it caved in, and we flooded a number of homes, including Dell's dad's place.
Yeah.
And so we bought that portable unit, and it's been a lifesaver. That's been a great investment. And so what I'm looking for tonight is approval to go ahead and spend the money to have that pump repaired so that we have a spare. And then also part of that is the portable pump that's currently handling those duties. About a week ago, it had some electrical failure issues. So we've been putting a lot of steady duty on it. It's a portable pump. It's meant to be used intermittently and not full term like it is now. And so we'd like permission at the same time, kind of a 1 and 3 here, permission to replace the pump, cost of about $14,000, rehab our portable unit, have the electrical issues taken care of on it. I don't know the cost of that. We've got a company that's come in and assess that, but it's one of those things where the amount's almost an arbitrary issue. We have to have that unit for obvious reasons.
What's the new unit cost?
New unit's about $80,000. So we think $5,000 to $7,000 would probably take care of the issues, and then to replace the pump itself at the bottom of the hill.
And then have a pump in reserve for a spare.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, is there a motion to that effect, guys?
I just don't understand how we could say no on something like this and why we're even
Well,
voting on it.
You can, but I'm gonna tell you what.
I'd like to see it fixed quicker.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wanna make a motion on it, but that's a question
Well,
I have.
the reason we haven't is, I mean, if you all know Andy. Andy's very frugal.
Yeah.
And so when we get the pump down there and bypass it, and then Andy starts the process of investigating what the most affordable or economical way is to replace the units that we have, do all these kinds of things. So he's very thorough in that regard. And so that takes a little bit of time. You send out the information to the vendors get back to you. That takes a process of a couple weeks. And so I've had this information now for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, basically prepared for tonight. And just want to make sure I'm communicating with you all on the things that need to be done out in the field. So number one, so you're aware of it. And number two, so we can move forward with confidence that you're supportive of the ideas.
I think the one thing I'd like to say is that, you know, we got you, Andy, and Pee Wee in charge of, certain things in this town, and my comment is look, I do have faith in them, and if there's something like this that comes up, I like good judgment. Now, if it's a big project, but I don't look at this as being a project.
This is
I
operations.
look at this as being, hey, part of our structure that we have now.
It's part of the
And
maintenance
when something
structure.
goes down, be
Absolutely.
on it, and I wanna let him know that, look, I trust his judgment, because I think that's his job.
Correct.
But I wanna make a motion that we move forward doing all this.
I think,
I'll second the motion, but I would like to ask one question.
yeah, I think.
How did the rock or the cement get to the pump to ruin that one? I mean,
Um,
that's something we need to look into.
That's a great question. You know, you've got, above that, you've got everything going up on the hill. You've got numbers of manholes, sewer manholes. Those manholes aren't locked. They're got heavy lids on them, but they're not locked. Anybody that has a mind to can pull a lid open and look inside of it. And so to say that somebody didn't decide that they wanted to pull a lid open and throw a bunch of trash down there, that happens. We have incidents where people dispose of household paint. They go to a manhole, they open the lid, they dump the paint down the manhole, they dump chemicals down the manhole. We've had instances where people get rid of household pets that have died by throwing them in the manhole. It's a way of doing things that can't readily be detected. We're not the only ones to deal with it. It happens all across the country. And so how a piece of concrete wound up down there and in that impeller, I don't know. But it's just something that happens from time to time.
Is there some way we could put a grate before the pumping station? That
Um,
comes down the manhole, nothing too big to go through the grate to get to the pump?
I think the quick answer is no, and the long answer is anytime you put something into a sewer pipe that is meant to screen flow, you're going to get wet wipes and toilet paper and household trash that starts accumulating on that, and we'll plug that up in just a matter of hours, days, or weeks. And it becomes a point that someone has to go to that every single day and do maintenance on it. And so these pumps are very, very robust. There's a lot of things that go down the sewer that hit these pumps. The pumps are made to chew through that stuff and lift it and deal with it. But solid objects like rocks and bricks and things like this, they're not so good at. So the total cost we're looking at is about $14,000 to rehab the one we have, about $19,000 to $20,000 to replace it. So we have an initial unit and then refurbished. And then we think somewhere around $7,000 to do the work on the portable unit.
Need a motion, guys. One way or the other.
Mr. Seymour made the motion, I seconded it.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. I can tell you stories about things in sewers, but I won't tonight. Mike Knoll?
Mr. Knoll isn't here this evening, but I can tell you what this is about. So if you look at our electrical billing rates, we have a charge that is a demand charge. So anybody who uses more than 50 kVA of electrical demand for any point within the calendar year moves to a demand billed customer. So Mr. Knoll
5:37 p.m.
spent quite a bit of money through IMPA, our purchase power provider, to
5:37 p.m.
rehab his existing building, the gym over on Industrial. He spent several $1,000s with them to come in and change out the lights, change out components in the building to make it more energy efficient. He's been a demand billed customer, and unbeknownst to me, he did this work with IMPA. He might have communicated with Crystal on it, I don't know, but in essence, he took the initiative to make the building more energy efficient. We've been monitoring that building for some time, and he went from using KVA demand that was around 50 kVA, or over 50 kVA actually at times, to using about 20 kVA. And so that's a significant reduction in his consumption of electricity. Technically speaking, the ordinance calls that A customer has to have been underneath the 50 kVA for a period of 11 months before we allow or before we change their billing. I think that this is a circumstance where Mr. Knoll has obviously spent several $1,000s to improve his building, and I think that it's appropriate that we deviate from the strict language of our ordinance and allow him to move into a different billing category. I think it's important because the one thing you have to understand about demand, it's a one-to-one cost for us. Every dollar of demand that he avoids is a dollar of demand that we don't have to pay. That's why the demand charge is there. If somebody's a demand customer, we have to pay that to IMPA. Well, he's obviously taken it upon himself to get underneath that number. He's invested money, time, and energy to get under that number. And the last thing I want to do is send a signal to a customer that does that we're not going to respond in kind and move them out of that demand billing when they in fact are showing us that they're not going to be a demand billed customer anymore. And so I think that this is a separate scenario than just somebody over a period of a year staying underneath that number and moving them out of it. I think that it's a good thing for us to respond to that and move him out of number one, move him out of the demand billing, but also there were 2 months, a period of 2 months where he was paying the $650 a month demand charge since he did the investment, since he invested that money. And we are suggesting that we refund 1 month of those demand charges because he came in and made us aware of the investment, brought us the information, showed us the information from IMPA. We verified that with IMPA as to what he's done to improve his energy efficiency at that building.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve Mr. Clausen's suggestion.
I have one question. What if he goes back up over the 50?
So if he goes back up over the 50, he has to remain there for a year. And that means that he will incur a $650.18 charge every month for a year. And he's aware of that.
He knows.
And I think that's the motivation behind him investing the money to improve the building's, energy efficiency. And that's the kind of signal we want to send. We want people to know that they can invest some money on their own, improve their facility, and the result is that they're going to save some money and that we're going to support them on that. Because those are demand charges that I don't have to pay IMPA. So I wish that everybody would reduce their demand, because if they did, I think it would save LMU approximately $23,000 a month if we could reduce our demand charges. And yeah, we are we're looking at things right now to be able to do that. And that's a substantial amount of money. That's $250,000 a year.
I'd like to make a motion, we proceed on with the utility director's recommendation.
Been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to abstain. Do I need to?
Roll call.
What do you think? He's
Tony
my
Abbott?
boss.
Yeah, I understand. Tony Abbott?
Aye.
Aaron Cook?
Aye.
Randy
Aye.
Abner? Mel Davis, aye. Paul Seymour abstain.
You didn't have to, but that's, okay. And
Yeah.
Paul works with Mike, but this is part of Mike's other business, so
Yeah.
no conflict, but that's
Okay.
that's reasonable to abstain though. It's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so passed. 4-1 abstention. Any other new business, Mr. Clausen?
No, Your Honor, I do not have any other new business.
Old business, Greg?
I will keep this short. Just more of a report on the data center in Cincinnati Bell. You remember they're down the basement, and we need that area for backup power in a bad way. Is that a good way of saying it? In a bad way? All right. So we've been working with Cincinnati Bell to allow them to come up with timing and terms. They have sent us now an agreement because they want to have the terms agreed on moving up into the data center. Just to give you guys an update, they're working with us. We're all working together really well. They've sent us a draft of an agreement. We're going to be working on that, and it's a heads up to you that agreement will be coming. Okay? That's it. Thanks.
Okay.
Bush, did you have an update?
That's the shortest time you've ever been up to that podium. And you need a discount now.
Good evening. I just have a couple of quick updates for the fiber. The hotel, I know that we would like to attract a lot more business to Lawrenceburg. And initially, when we started having meetings with the DoubleTree and the event center, they only wanted to purchase dedicated internet access, dedicated bandwidth. And we agreed to that. We installed the fiber. And then they came back and said, well, we want you guys to do a full carrier grade wireless system in the event center so that they can attract some of these larger pharmaceutical companies and various corporations that they can host their conferences here. So I meet once a week with their corporate office, as well as Mr. Ryan Coppola over at the hotel. Just 2 days ago, I received two designs for the fiber, or not the fiber, but the wireless system. We had some internal meetings, and we decided to go with a company called Extreme. The two vendors that gave us some quotes, one is Atran. They provide all our fiber to the home equipment. I normally would have gone with them because it would have fully integrated with the rest of our system. However, Extreme just has a better product. It's a little bit more expensive, but they showcased it a few years ago. So Extreme does all the wireless for Lucas Oil Stadium, which is a much larger venue than the event center. So we know it works, and it works well, and the difference in the cost was minimal. With respect to the actual fiber to the home construction, we have been concentrating on State Road 48 or Bilby. That's one of our trouble spots, and we want to get that done. We're about a little over halfway done with Bilby, and so we'll get the other half done, then we'll move on. Once 48's done, well, simultaneously we're working on Preble, so those streets will be ready to go next week, and we can start scheduling people on Preble Circle. After that, we'll be moving on to Bel Air and Three Ridge, get those taken care of, because with respect to 3 Mile Ridge, the fiber's there. It's just a matter of getting it into the complexes. With respect to, I didn't forget about you, sir. With respect to Fairhaven as well as Edinburgh, I did order equipment to get those apartment complexes up and ready. So I did get a response from the manufacturer of the GFast equipment that I need to run it. And I will have that equipment in 2 weeks. And I talked to Miss Judy and told her that as soon as that equipment comes, I will get her on the books, and we'll go ahead and install it and get that, so we can get those customers up at Edinburgh.
And I think that, Tony, we talked to you quite a bit about this. I appreciate you staying honest about it. But this is all with the understanding that we're working with the city to cover certain costs that would be the city's responsibility. And so, just to keep that in mind, that look, we want to take care of the concerns that you as council have. We're fully prepared to address those things. We just want to make sure that we're recovering the costs that we need to recover to properly keep the projects moving forward.
Did we vote to do the cost, to cover the cost in council, or did we just talk about it? I think we kind of agreed. We kind of agreed to it. We just need the price.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we agreed in concept. That's probably accurate.
For all the apartments or just Edinburgh?
Well, Edinburgh is a city-owned facility.
So
So Edinburgh's owned by the city, ran by the city, and so so that Edinburgh would probably be a separate animal, different.
Okay. So I ordered equipment for not just Edinburgh, but I ordered for a total of 5 because I want to just get those. What I can do is just divide that cost out and then give you an accurate cost down to the penny.
Yeah, and that was one thing we committed to you, Tony, is to get you the cost so that you could bring that
And now,
forward.
did you work out an agreement with Fairhavens? Because I know that was a problem for a while.
As far as an agreement, no, I talked to the management, and they were fine with it. We went and reviewed both the the one across from or next to the library, as well as the one next to Edinburgh, and they're all for it. They're just ready to get connected.
How about Riviera? Where we at up there?
Riviera, I talked to Patricia, who is the HOA manager, I believe, and I gave her a firm deadline that we would be up at Riviera and connecting customers by the end of the year.
The nuance to Riviera is that entire facility, including the roads, sidewalks, and everything, is owned by them. That's not public roads. It's not our roads, our easements. And so that's, we've had to work with Fisher Homes, and I think the development arm is, I can't think of it right now. So there's two entities basically that oversee that property. You have Fisher, who I think initiates the construction of it, and Greg, we've worked with Grand Communities, thank you. So we've got two entities that we have to work through there in order to get things in place. And so that's resulted in some delays. Anytime you add additional ownership to it, there's approvals that have to be made, and so that's why that's taken so long. Trust me, I mean, Riviera is the exact kind of place we want to serve, because you have hundreds of apartments, condos in a pretty concentrated area. I mean, those are the areas we want to get into, because our cost of service is much less than, you know, running out someplace to serve one customer.
So I guess my question is if you're making a promise that we'll be in there by the end of the year, you guys have got the negotiation with the owner.
Yeah,
done.
we've made serious headway in those talks with the ownership.
To add to that, one of the biggest problems that we had with Riviera on the network side is all the additional condos and buildings that they're putting up right now. So I've been in contact with a project manager. His name is Andy, but he works for Fisher. So he's supposed to be sending me, and I reached out to him a couple days ago again to request that information. But I need a full blueprint of, you know, how many new condos are they building, where are they putting them, so that we can be fully prepared. Because just the new complexes that they put up, we had to change our splicing design to accommodate for the additional homes. So that's something that I've reached out to him twice. He said that, you know, well, I'll email it to you. So I reached out again a couple days ago, but I haven't seen anything. I'll reach out to him again on Monday and you know, ask so that we can get that information, because we have to have that to get our splicing diagram set up.
I mean, are we on the pace that you guys are okay with, or should we? We've got a small amount of employees, and we're hooking up 2 homes a day.
Yep.
On average.
If you add the Riviera to this formula, and you're talking hundreds of homes.
I said we would start construction and get the main build there, and then we would start connecting homes.
Make them happy. They want it in their house. So here's what I'm leading up to.
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to take for us to start getting some home hookups? And should we be talking about subs coming in, more employees dedicated to this? You know the problem we have.
Yeah, I think it would be ill-advised to consider additional employees, because once this rush is done, what do you do with them? You still have the cost of keeping them here, the benefits, all those kinds of things. Yeah, if we had additional funds, I mean, right now the way we're trying to do it is we've had very focused discussions about. We had a bid opening in here one night that was in excess of $2 million. We knew that we could save on that 40 to 50% by doing it in-house, largely in-house, and to date we have. The initial estimates for the fiber optics project were $5 million, and that didn't include the data center. Data center's around $1 million. We're right at, actually a little over $5 million, including the data center. So we're about $1 million behind budget of what we thought the build-out would be, and we're largely complete with second mile or last mile fiber. And so the staff has done an excellent job of building out this infrastructure at a below market cost. That's important to know, because the repayment of the debt, you know, we might be taking a little more time to get that. We talked about initially recovering that debt in a period of 5 to 6 years. And
I think it was, well, originally, when I did the cost estimates, and this was on the assumption that a contractor came in, built it within 6 months, and we had a fairly conservative penetration rate, which I set it at, I believe, 30%. So that was our market penetration. Now, that changed, obviously, because our build-out has gone much slower, but our costs are somewhat lower, too, because we didn't have to have the contractors come in.
So I think to answer your question, Paul, yeah, if there were some support from like the Mutual Development Fund in deployment of the fiber, we could expect quicker installation times, because we'd be bringing in additional boots on the ground, additional personnel to build that out. And that's how most utilities would have approached it. No utility would have approached the build out in the way we did, doing it ourselves. But we've got great staff, and we've done a great job as far as I'm concerned in doing that.
I'm not criticizing the job. I mean, it's a problem, but I shouldn't call it a problem because, hey, everybody wants it. So the only problem we're having is we ain't getting it there quick enough to make them happy. I guess, I'm hearing about it. We're all hearing about it. Is it worth it to do anything about it, or should I just relax a little bit and let things...
I think what we could probably do is Moosh and I could get together and look at timelines. And, another 4 weeks, 3 weeks isn't gonna hurt us. We can have something, we can come back to you all at the next Utility Service Board meeting, and we could talk about what you could expect if we had additional funds to speed up the deployment, and what that would mean in terms of getting certain areas served and or not. And you guys could make an educated decision on whether or not you think the additional investment's worth it. The only problem I will say that we're having with fiber is quite honestly, people just want it. The churn rate or the market share of 30%, I think is half of what we can realistically expect. Based on the people who are calling us and the quality of service that our existing customers have, I think we're looking to get to that 60-70% saturation that we hoped for. And that's a great thing for us.
I mean, it seems to me like when you got a concentration like you have up at the Riviera, if maybe we could just look at subcontractors coming in there and attacking that thing, it's going to bring a whole bunch of income to your network. Could we analyze it kind of like that, instead of having them hop all around and take
Sure, we could look at geographically specific areas, certain areas.
I could provide a report to Mr. Clausen, and we can go from there.
Condos and apartments.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a way to it's like you guys said, if you can get a concentration, it's smarter to do all that. I'd just like at the next meeting for us to talk about that, and maybe it's something we wouldn't be interested in, but it's not a problem, but it is a problem. It's a good problem to have, I guess. But I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, and that goes back to the apartments as well, whether it's Edenburg or any of the other ones. Like, we haven't done a full-scale apartment complex, and that's something that, Edenburg will be the first, and we should hopefully start that in like 2-3 weeks. But that could be a somewhat of a challenge because it'll be the first time we do one. Not to mention the new facility that's going up near, I guess it's on High Street.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 150 some units, and that's gonna be a bear.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
If you had a 5-person crew, dedicated contracting crew, dedicated strictly to the fiber and fiber connections, okay? How long, in your guesstimation, would it take to hook up Riviera?
Just Riviera. If I had a
Riviera, let's concentrate on that one at a time.
I have to go back and look at my notes to see
Just take
exactly how many units there are in Riviera, and I could
Take a wild guess.
6 weeks.
Okay. Well, that gives us an idea of what we're talking about.
But I literally just pulled that out of my.
Well, I understand, and that's what a wild ass guess is.
But now you're willing to come back to us the next meeting and you won't be pulling it out of the air. You can actually have some better.
Yes, I just need to know exactly how many units, which I have all that information, I have to go back and look at it, but once I can go back and look at my notes and then give you an actual educated answer as opposed to
Okay,
a
now,
wild guess.
if we hire this crew, we want them educated and up and running.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out is when we did the bid opening for that contracting crew to come in, they exceeded our engineer estimates by $1,000,000 some. The reason they did is, and we experienced this on the build out, the portion, the $700,000 portion the city paid on the backbone. There's such a push right now for fiber optics nationwide that we had a very difficult time finding contracting companies that were willing to come in and work in Lawrenceburg.
I understand.
The contractor that we had here, and I forget the name of him now.
What, Transtel?
Transtel. They had dozens of jobs nationwide that they were going to do, and we were a relatively small market. And so the company that bid on that just basically gave us a number that if they got it, it was 3 times what the price should have been. I mean, it was a multiple of 3. And so that's one thing to consider is we can talk all day about contracting companies coming and doing that stuff, but it's a market-based thing. And getting someone to actually come in and be willing to do that might be more difficult than we understand. I just want the board to understand that.
Well, they'll come in, but at what cost, like you said?
Yeah,
Like
you may, and I understand the need to push it and get customers hooked up and stuff, but I also want everybody to keep in mind that there should be a threshold of what we're willing to pay for a project.
And that's why I'm counting on you two to research this and let us know what the smart thing to do here is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you,
Excuse me. Is there any other old business or discussion?
No, sir, not for me.
Okay. Comments from the audience? Any comments? Okay. We need to pay the bills, guys. Has everyone had a chance to review the claims? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting just
Thank you all for coming.
Tim.
Hey. Yeah, that brought up some old memories. It's kind of,
Huge rebates through there.
yeah. Yeah,
Hey, Mooch. Hey, Mooch.
sometimes it just probably fix themselves.
Now, you know you gotta keep this car all spiffy and shiny. You know you gotta get it all cleaned up every day. Have it all polished up. I'm messing.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. Oh, you gonna